nose. "He must have been a good horse at the start, though he has come to grief in his old age," he thought. "I wish you would come with me and help me with something," pleaded the horse. The boy thought it would be embarrassing to accompany a creature who looked so wretched, and excused himself on account of the bad weather. "You'll be no worse off on my back than you are lying here," said the horse. "But perhaps you don't dare to go with an old tramp of a horse like me." "Certainly I dare," said the boy. "Then wake the geese so that we can arrange with them where they shall come for you to morrow," said the horse. The boy was soon seated on the animal's back. The old nag trotted along better than he had thought possible. It was a long ride in the rain and darkness before they halted near a large inn, where everything looked terribly uninviting. The wheel tracks were so deep in the road that the boy feared he might drown should he fall down into them. Alongside the fence which enclosed the yard, some 30 or 40 horses and cattle were tied, with no protection against the rain, and in the yard were wagons piled with packing cases, where sheep, calves, hogs, and chickens were shut in. The horse walked over to the fence and stationed himself. The boy remained seated upon his back, and, with his good night eyes, plainly saw how badly the animals fared. "How do you happen to be standing out here in the rain?" he asked. "We're on our way to a fair at Örebro, but we were obliged to put up here on account of the rain. This is an inn, but so many travellers have already arrived that there is no room for us in the barns." The boy made no reply, but sat quietly looking about him. Not many of the animals were asleep, and on all sides he heard complaints and indignant protests. They had reasons enough for grumbling, for the weather was even worse than it had been earlier in the day. A freezing wind had begun to blow, and the rain which came beating down on them was turning to snow. It was easy enough to understand what the horse wanted the boy to help him with. "Do you see that fine farmyard directly opposite the inn?" remarked the horse. "Yes, I see it," answered the boy, "and I can't comprehend why they haven't tried to find shelter for all of you in there. They are already full, perhaps?" "No, there are no strangers in that place," said the horse. "The people who live on that farm are so stingy and selfish that it would be useless for anyone to ask them for harbour." "If that's the case, I suppose you'll have to stand where you are." "I was born and raised on that farm," said the horse. "I know that there is a large barn and a big cowshed with many empty stalls and mangers, and I was wondering if you couldn't manage in some way or other to get us in over there." "I don't think I could venture," hesitated the boy. But he felt so sorry for the poor beasts that he wanted at least to try. He ran into the strange barnyard and saw at once that all the outhouses were locked and the keys gone. He stood there puzzled and helpless, when aid came to him from an unexpected source. A gust of wind came sweeping along with terrific force and flung open a shed door right in front of him. The boy was not long in getting back to the horse. "It isn't possible to get into the barn or the cow house," he said, "but there's a big empty hay shed that they have forgotten to bolt. I can lead you into that." "Thank you," said the horse. "It will seem good to sleep once more on familiar ground. It's the only happiness I can expect in this life." Meanwhile, at the flourishing farm opposite the inn, the family sat up much later than usual that evening. The master of the place was a man of 35, tall and dignified, with a handsome but melancholy face. During the day he had been out in the rain and had got wet like every one else, and at supper he asked his old mother, who was still mistress of the place, to light a fire on the hearth that he might dry his clothes. The mother kindled a feeble blaze, for in that house they were not wasteful with wood, and the master hung his coat on the back of a chair and placed it before the fire. With one foot on top of the andiron and a hand resting on his knee, he stood gazing into the embers. Thus he stood for 2 whole hours, making no move other than to cast a log on the fire now and then. The mistress removed the supper things and turned down his bed for the night before she went to her own room and seated herself. At intervals she came to the door and looked wonderingly at her son. "It's nothing, mother. I'm only thinking," he said. His thoughts were on something that had occurred shortly before. When he passed the inn a horse dealer had asked him if he would not like to purchase a horse, and had shown him an old nag, so weather beaten that he asked the dealer if he took him for a fool, since he wished to palm off such a played out beast on him. "Oh, no," said the horse dealer. "I only thought that inasmuch as the horse once belonged to you, you might wish to give him a comfortable home in his old age. He has need of it." Then he looked at the horse and recognized it as one which he had himself raised and broken in. But it did not occur to him to purchase such an old and useless creature on that account. No, indeed, he was not one who squandered his money. All the same, the sight of the horse had awakened many memories, and it was the memories that kept him awake. That horse had been a fine animal. His father had let him tend it from the start. He had broken it in and had loved it above everything else. His father had complained that he used to feed it too well, and often he had been obliged to steal out and smuggle oats to it. Once when he ventured to talk with his father about letting him buy a broadcloth suit, or having the cart painted, his father stood as if petrified, and he thought the old man would have a stroke. He tried to make his father understand that, when he had a fine horse to drive, he should look presentable himself. The father made no reply, but 2 days later he took the horse to Örebro and sold it. It was cruel of him, but it was plain that his father had feared that this horse might lead him into vanity and extravagance. And now, so long afterward, he had to admit that his father was right. A horse like that surely would have been a temptation. At first he had grieved terribly over his loss. Many a time he had gone down to Örebro, just to stand on a street corner and see the horse pass by, or to steal into the stable and give him a lump of sugar. He thought, "If I ever get the farm, the first thing I do will be to buy back my horse." Now his father was gone, and he himself had been master for 2 years, but he had not made a move toward buying the horse. He had not thought of him for ever so long, until to night. It was strange that he should have forgotten the beast so entirely. His father had been a very headstrong, domineering man. When his son was grown and the two had worked together, the father had gained absolute power over him. The boy had come to think that everything his father did was right, and after he became the master, he only tried to do exactly as his father would have done. He knew, of course, that folks said his father was stingy, but it was well to keep a tight hold on one's purse and not throw away money needlessly. The goods one has received should not be wasted. It was better to live on a debt free place and be called stingy, than to carry heavy mortgages, like other farm owners. He had gone so far in his mind when he was called back by a strange sound. It was as if a shrill, mocking voice were repeating his thoughts. "It is better to keep a firm hold on one's own purse and be called stingy